straight ahead right here. We are straight ahead. Oh my gosh, we're up. We're live. The broadcast is back. It's about 6:40-ish Thursday evening after a momentous day at the San Antonio City Council. We've got a couple of items on the agenda for tonight. As always, we thank you for joining us, and we ask that you like it, share it, push the podcast out. We are thinking, and Sal and I were just talking about this a couple of minutes ago, about maybe moving to a Tuesday night, getting a little ahead of the game so we can talk about the issues and things that are affecting San Antonio before they happen, because we have to get active in our community. I mean, we have to engage to get active in standing up against the issues, the policies, the ordinances that are coming out of City Hall. Today's a classic example. We're going to talk about the things that have happened, but we need to get active in talking about what is actually happening in both law and policy at San Antonio City Council. Now, if we do that, sometimes it's not very exciting. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not super cool to talk about ordinances at City Hall. But you know what else is not cool? What else is not cool is getting, right, your taxes raised. You're paying more for the basics of life. Your job and employment opportunities are diminished. Your educational opportunities are diminished. Things like racism and its use as a blunt force weapon, a tool to change our community. We're going to talk about that today. So all these policy initiatives, anti-police, defund police, all these things that are happening at the basic level of local city government, if we don't engage and get involved in that a little earlier in the game, then we are going to be in trouble. So things get voted on in the darkness, right? When you shine light on the actions of City Hall, it's like when you shine light in a dark room, what happens? The roaches scurry, man. Things get exposed. So for us, it's about shining the light on the issue. And I think we got to get going that a little earlier. We're going to toy around with going back to Tuesday and figuring out how we can bring the information of what's happening. Because today at San Antonio City Council, I think some things were passed, some language was used today and yesterday. The defund police movement is coming up, these ballot initiatives. There are things that are rising at City Hall, and it's not enough to talk about them after they have happened. Not enough. If you're talking and trying to affect change, either when it's about to happen or after it has happened, you got problems. Like you've already lost. So we need to get much stronger and thoughtful about the issues up front in the game. We're going to talk about all that tonight. I've only got a couple of issues on tap. We'll see how long it takes us. But I think we need to really narrow in on what's happening and put some facts out. And I've got some things tonight I'm going to read to you so we can talk over what these items actually look like. Because we're voting on stuff at City Hall, and we have no clue, right? We have no clue what our elected officials are doing. And we can own that. We can accept the fact, no clue of what's happening in the vote, unless we take the extra step to find out what City Hall is doing. I'll talk about that tonight. But as always, the broadcast loves to thank our sponsors, and we start off with Align Mortgage of Texas. Chris Cano, Tony Diaz, and Cody Carrasquillo, the three stewards of Align Mortgage, are responsible for bringing this organization to this city, San Antonio, but they're in Hawaii, they're in California. They're on a mission to go national to talk about the VA home loan benefit and what it means for veterans to own a piece of the land, man, that they serve and defend, right? I always like to say this. 30 years ago, we used to measure the success of our country, right? Our economic engine by the amount of home ownership, right? The amount of housing starts. So when you owned a home, it indicated, the wealth in our country, right? And home ownership, somewhere along the line of the last 10, 15 years, has changed. Right now, it's about apartments. It's about less responsibility in home ownership. Again, we have to instill that back into the community. Align Mortgage of Texas does that when they talk about, look, man, own a home. Own a piece of the country you serve. The VA home loan benefit, there are so many intricacies to it, but at the end of the day, it's an opportunity that you work with somebody you can trust. You dig into what it means. It's no down payment. Sure, what does it mean to have a credit score? What does it mean to qualify for a loan? How do you get a loan as a veteran? What happens if you're stationed somewhere for 4 years? How do you make that work? I mean, all these questions are answered with our friends at Align Mortgage of Texas, who live on the pillars of faith, family, coworkers, and community. And there they are right there. Don't forget, you can also catch a live seminar Saturday, September 12th, 8 a.m. Pacific, but for us, 10 a.m. Central Time, to learn the truth about the VA home loan benefit. I brag about these men and women at Align Mortgage because they go the extra step to take care of veterans and anybody looking for a mortgage loan. So thank you. We also want to thank Louis Garcia and his family at AAA Garcia Bail Bonds. We love you, Louis. We know you're out there. Haven't seen you in a while, man. We got to solve that problem real quick. But we love you. If you run into issue, right? And in that issue you run into, if you need some help and you need a bondsman, I got to tell you, call this guy. Mainly because he's a family-owned business, San Antonio born and bred. We got to deal and keep it at home, and he will take care of you and your family. And he'll do it the right way because it's a family-owned business. We love Louis because he's always there for us. We appreciate you, your family, and your team. Thank you. And of course, there are two realtors that always pop in and help us out. First up is Brian Pena from the Remax Toronto Realty Group. If you need, and I love this guy's photo, here he is, Brian Pena, number at the bottom. If you need any help, he's got a first responders buyers program. As a realtor, he always steps up and helps. And he is there, takes care of people, does business with Align Mortgage, and also just, look, wants to help people from a realtor perspective get in a home. Brian Pena, we love you. And then Chris Marty at Rebate House, rebatehouse.com, and both of these partners will give you money back if you close a home loan, right? And as a realtor, their job is to put great properties in front of you that fit your family's needs and your budget. Chris Marty and his Rebate House team, as well as Brian Pena, are always there, and they're big friends of the show, and they always take care of us, and we're very thankful for them. So we appreciate it. And then last but not least, our friend Tyler Hall from Speedy Salt. Tyler, I don't know where you're at tonight, man. I ordered the wings again. I've got wings and burgers out front waiting on you, my friend. So Tyler shows up, helps us out with the show. We appreciate him, but his business, right? He's self-made. His small business enterprise delivers salt to your front door. Speedy Salt, Tyler Hall. We love him. Give him a shot. SpeedySalt.com. If you sign up, he will deliver the salt to you. And nothing is worse than going to Home Depot and picking up a 50-pound bag of salt and dragging that sucker back home. Tyler does it for you. Give him a holler. He takes care of us. He's a good man of faith and all. We appreciate him sincerely. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you to our sponsors. Tonight, comment. If you have questions about how things work at City Hall, while it may not be exciting, ask them in the comments. Let us know. I'll do my best to keep up with it. We're going to keep them up there on the sidewall as well so that I can see what people are saying. But comment, ask questions, and let us know. Do you love San Antonio? How do you feel about where our community is going right now? Especially after things like today. What does it mean at City Hall when they say racism is a public health crisis? We're going to talk about that in a minute. Is San Antonio a racist community? Let's have that conversation. We're going to talk about that for a little while tonight too. And do we defund or defend our police department? Big issues. Is this the San Antonio you knew, you grew up in, and you are calling home? That is a big question that we have to talk about, because I'd advocate that there is a vocal minority that is controlling the majority of decision making. But if the silent majority allows that to happen, you got no one to blame but yourself, my friend. Get out and vote. We got a chance in November, but for us as a city, it really rolls into May of next year. So is it going to be vocal minority controlling or silent majority at the voting box, at the ballot booth? I'll tell you what, today I was listening to the city council meeting, and one activist called in favor of today's resolution to declare racism a public health crisis in San Antonio. And in her conversation, she didn't spend too much time talking about racism itself. You know what she said? She said we need to defund the police department. And her exact words were, San Antonio wants to defund their police department. She said it about 10 times. San Antonio wants to defund their police department. So when only 10 or 20 people sign up to speak and have their voice be heard, and that's all the city council is hearing, guess what they're hearing? Defund, defund, defund. That's what San Antonio wants. That's what San Antonio wants. I can guarantee you, 100% accuracy and certainty, the majority of San Antonio does not want to defund the police department. So the vocal minority is out there thinking, because they live in their bubble, they think that that's what the community wants, and they're going to continue to say it. But squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if they're the only ones speaking and saying, then guess what's going to happen? Some level of what they want. And right now, there are probably 5 council members who want to defund the police department. Austin did it, and San Antonio City Council, a bunch of pandering followers, right, whose sole goal in life is to try to be Austin, Portland, or Seattle, or some other progressive city, right, where the laws and rules are written in such a manner that within themselves are racist. I mean, they are trying to fight the very actions they are perpetrating themselves on our community. So we have to think about, all right, we got to deal in fact. And if we deal in that fact, then we can vote and let the vote fall where they may. The Great Reckoning in our society, in our country, right, since 1776, right, the Great Reckoning is always a public vote. And if you have a chance to vote, then at the end of the day, when that vote comes, if you come short of that 50+1 and you don't win, I don't know what to tell you, right? You can keep fighting, keep going until the next election. But the Great Reckoning is a public vote, and it's coming soon. And where are you going to be? You know, how are you going to stand on that? What piece of your city are you going to attempt to save and hang on to? That's what it's going to come down to. What piece do you want to... Look, 2018, this city, the city of San Antonio, celebrated 300 years of existence. San Antonio is older than the nation itself. Let that sink in for a second. San Antonio is older than the nation itself. Okay, 300 years, 2 years ago in 2018, we were praising the cultural diversity of San Antonio. We were talking about how wonderful the city is for the entire year, how great it is in cultural diversity, how wonderful that we interact and relate with each other, how beautiful our culture, history, our dance, our song, our food, our ethnicity, you name it, all listed out its greatness over the span of 1 year. And every one of those people on the council, because I was on the council at that time, screaming the praises of San Antonio's racial diversity. Fast forward 18 months later, this is a cesspool of racism and hate. What in the world is going on when not even 18 months later, and I'm going to read you some of this public health crisis declaration, what city is City Hall actually living in? I don't know. What city do they believe they represent? Comment in the sections. Let us know. Can you put the comments up there on the side? We can go through a few of them and see what people are saying. This is Austin Light. I love it. Defend the police, Tina Cortez. Dennis Friccione. Nope, this is Austin Light. They actually hit that one on them. Russ Latham, my man. Cody, how are you doing, man? Arthur, Michael Norwood. I moved out of San Antonio into Bexar County because of the city. What is your take on pre-K for SA? Duncan Weld. So we got to write that one down. I'm going to make sure I put that there. Pre-K for SA. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. San Antonio is not racist. Linda Goslin. We have to get the mayor and other socialists out. People want to defund police that don't have jobs. Maybe not Clayton. Let's be clear. Clayton Perry's not one of those folks. We'll talk about him today. So a lot of folks standing up for San Antonio. Now, let's be very clear. Is there racist people in San Antonio? Absolutely. Can you be pro-police and believe in Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. Can you love our city and think it's a damn good city, worthy of all of it, with its, yeah, we have issues and opportunities, but is this a racist city? I want to see your comment right now in there. Yes or no? Are we a racist city? So you can send a message loud and clear that I don't know what story you're telling at City Hall, but that's not the city we're living in. Racist people doesn't mean racist city. Every city has this growth and history and these problems that built it into what it is today. I get that. I understand that. But there's not a soul in this city that is responsible for what happened in 1918. And no, our history doesn't equate to my fault. Let me repeat that. Our history as a city does not equate to my fault as a citizen. This is 2020. So we have to gather around that as a community and stand up for what we honestly believe. And the garbage that's flying all around us, remember, it's a vocal minority pushing what they believe to be their majority decision. And as long as you sit back and let it happen, friends, that is exactly what is going to occur. They will get away with the message as long as there is nobody in opposition saying otherwise. So it's incumbent on us to put it out there and make it happen and talk it through. So let's get into it. Let's dig a little bit. Put your comments and questions in there. What do we got? Anybody else pop up with anything? Scott Smith, San Antonio was not racist, but these proclamations divide us. We're going to talk about that. There are racist people everywhere, but not everywhere, not in San Antonio. Yes, absolutely there are racists. Cindy, good point. I believe, Cindy, where'd you go? I still love our city. Yes, there are racists. There are people in our community, but as a whole, we're not. No, San Antonio is not racist. This isn't a racist city. Top 3 in diversity from Ernest Taylor. San Antonio has the least racism. Tina. Mateo Lopez. San Antonio as a city, as a collective, are not racist. There are certainly racist, unequivocally racist people that live here. But as a community, hell no. Hell no. And people take these. Look, what I would tell you this about city council, they never lose an opportunity to take a crisis to convert it to their own personal political agenda. Right? The crisis being COVID-19. And essentially today, the City Hall and City Council, led by the mayor of San Antonio, Ron Nerber, clearly saying that COVID-19 is worse, right, because of racism. 100%. He said COVID-19 is worse because of racism. So let's look at some COVID-19 stats, just to make sure we set the baseline of where we're at. So do you have COVID-19? Let's see here. You've got Corona. You got those ones, Corona, listed up there, some COVID-19 stats?
What it's called?
Corona? Let's see here. We got to get some pictures flying up here in a second.
Draft. Oh,
Corona. Corona. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
There's some stats up in there.
Let me see.
Did you get them loaded up? Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
I got this one.
Oh, okay. Well, look. I'll read them to you then. There was some screenshots from coronavirus. Sometimes the technology doesn't allow us to get it wrapped up. So what I will do then is to talk it through. Recents, let me bring it up here. Here we go. So the risk level for San Antonio right now is at a moderate level. Stay home when possible. So the coronavirus COVID-19 update for today is stay home when possible. It's moderate. Now we've seen it over the last 2 to 3 weeks where it has been at critical levels. So right now it's at a moderate. The number of new cases, 191. Total deaths at 656. Total coronavirus cases, 44,456 cases. Mind you, Bexar County, 2.3 million people, 44,456 cases. The demographics of this are very interesting. Hispanic and Latino cases at 74%, white at 18%, black or African American at 6%, and then this other group at 2%. So the argument today is that COVID-19 is worse because of racist tendencies in our city. Systemic racism that we cannot avoid. Plus what they love to call implicit, right? Or implicit or real or exact bias. So implicit bias means you don't really know you're racist, but your tendencies are racist no matter what. So they've got you on both sides. You're either straight out an avowed racist or you're implicitly racist. That's their goal now, right? So they no longer categorize you as a straight up racist, right? Which they do, they'll say it. People will say it, they've called me that, they'll call Saldo that, they'll call whoever they want to call. Bro, you're a racist because you don't like this movement, or you don't like the rioters downtown. You're racist. You don't like Rebecca Villagrán in District 3. You're a racist. Everybody's a racist. Let's just throw the racist card out, right? But at the end of the day, right, you are either a stone cold racist to the people at City Hall, or you're implicitly biased and implicitly racist, meaning your upbringing, your life, your whole thing. You don't think consciously about it. You're not in conscious thought about your racism, but your actions are racist. Because you may walk down the street and see somebody of color and step across and walk across the other side. Who knows what their metric of measurement is? But now they've got you as a citizen on both sides. You either are an addict, you can't help yourself, you're fully on board and hate people of color, or you're implicitly doing it. You don't have any idea of implicit bias. It's just there because that's how you were raised and the system is screwing it over and we can't help it. People hate people of color. It's just inherent, or the system is always manipulating people of color. That's where they're playing the game. Now, do I know that that's what San Antonio is? My big answer on that is absolutely hell no. But you've got people at City Hall, like the Chief Equity Officer, Zan Gibbs. They have a Chief Equity Officer whose job at City Hall is to rail against all this racism, right? And to stop it and rebuild this city, to make sure every dollar. So if I have a buck, everybody gets the same amount of that piece of that buck. Everybody does. We have to not just be equal, we have to offer equity, which means those who, in their opinion, have been ignored, they get the greater share, right? While certain people in this community, and I'm going to say it because it has to be said, they're implying that it's white people, right? white people, right, and the man, right, the who controls the message, who controls the banks, who controls the money, who controls the lending, who controls the power, the white man in that conversation is therefore responsible for this entire process of demeaning people of color. When you say people of color, right, are struggling or have problems in systemic racism, and you pass resolutions and laws and ordinances, and you have a chief equity officer who does nothing but talk about people of color and how their life has been really destroyed, there is only one person left out of that occasion, left out of that conversation. And the person left out of it is the white, right? It's the white person. So they don't say, when you come into the conversation, say, hey, look, man, people of color have been screwed by this city and the man for centuries. Who's the only one left out of that? The white person, right? The machine is creating this racism, whether overt or implicit, across our entire community. And I sit back and I'm like, what? Hold on a second here. Hold on. I am both a person of color and I am a white person. My father's the Bracas, my mother's the Arocha. So what, am I implicitly biased against myself? Like, am I, the inner struggle I must have, right? Think about that. The inner struggle I must have being a person of color and not a person of color. What in the world are you people thinking? All right? You cannot sit there and isolate and divide our community for your policies just because you feel like, well, you know what? We need to do something about it because Austin did it and this country did it. And somebody got murdered in this city, therefore it equates to us in San Antonio. It doesn't work that way. And that's what we have at City Hall. And the conversation has grown to this point, right, where coronavirus, right, is now worse because of racism. And they'll tell you, well, yeah, because in 1932, this neighborhood was built, and in 1918, the Texas Rangers murdered somebody, and the American cavalry in 1902 did this. Therefore, from that line all the way to today, Greg Brockhouse says the white man is responsible for the oppression of the Southsider Arocha. Okay, I can't even go any further with the ridiculous nature of something happening 50 years ago being my responsibility. And as a person of color who is both a white person and a person of color, I don't know what the hell you're thinking. So is this a racist city? I mean, is San Antonio racist? We are, I'm sorry, you have to even get even more, you want to get even more ridiculous, you got to go even further and have the real question. Who really is the Native American, right? You want to talk about, you can go all the way back to the actual Native American, the American Indian. You can go all the way back to the people who found, who come on. You want to get involved and start poking at historical inaccuracies and historical inequities and all these things. We who are here now in San Antonio are not responsible for what happened in 1918. A council person today said that, well, we must just feel guilty about what happened back then and we own a piece of that. Can you believe that? They said that we own a piece of that responsibility for what happened in 1918. Do you believe that? That you own, you're responsible as a citizen of the city for what happened in 102 years ago? Out of control. So, COVID-19 gets worse. And I'm here to tell you, even the stats are getting better. Now, there's a declining nature. You can go to sanantonio.gov. You can look up the COVID-19 progress indicators. And there is a decreasing 14-period day count. So we are getting in a better position, right? So they look at how often the virus how often COVID-19 is growing over a 14-day period. Is it in an increasing nature? Is it decreasing? What are the total amount of cases? We are in a decreasing scenario of COVID-19. That doesn't mean you don't be safe and you're not taking care of your neighbors and family. You don't mask up when you go out and you don't respect the opportunities that we've been given to open our city back up. Yes, we have to do all of that. How we do it matters, I believe, right? Like, we don't come in and take people's rights in an effort to do this. I think there's been a lot of issues with that, but we are in a better position now with COVID-19. Kids are going back to school, but don't ever let City Hall, they're not going to waste their time. If they see drama or opportunity, right, they're going to use that for their personal political gain. And with kids going back to school, mark my words, City Hall is going to be watching that, right? The Democratic Party, Republicans are going to be everybody's watching each other. So when kids go back to school, they're going to be saying, okay, where is there a spike in cases here? Can we use this politically to our advantage, right? Because if we do, we can shut the city back down. We can take away people's power and opportunity. That's what they want. They want to take away the voice of the person, in an effort to pass their personal political agenda. And in doing that, you can mask up, you can do all these things, you can play by the rules, you can follow the opening percentage, you can be a small business owner in San Antonio, you can work hard, still get shut down, and lose your business. Because Ron Nirenberg and Nelson Wolff, right, believe they are the kings of Bexar County and the city of San Antonio. They don't include anybody else. They really don't. Right? The entire San Antonio City Council is not part of this conversation. It's just these two men in consultation with God knows who, turning around and running these programs, right? Pushing us into an abyss. San Antonio is a broke city. So only because we've lost the tax revenue. So we're looking and we're staring down this tough conversation about where money goes and how it matters right now. The City Hall answer is, let's raise taxes and put it to a public vote in November. That's their choice, right? Let's spend $500 million, right? Let's put it to a public vote. That doesn't even take effect until fall of 2021, but let's just spend the money around and figure out later on how to help people now. Folks, we need to rebuild San Antonio now. And COVID-19 is on the decline. That doesn't mean you lose your diligence. You still stay aware and you get out there in the neighborhoods and communities and you be mindful of it. Mask up when you stand up. If you're out there, visit and support our small businesses. But we are in a better position for it. But racism, all right, racism is a tough call to blame on an entire city to say you own a part of it. So today at the San Antonio City Council, they put up, and there's a draft resolution. I'm going to read some parts of this because you're going to love it. You've got some images up there labeled resolution 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Can you put those up, resolution?
Okay, let me see. Ooh.
Woo, are we getting them?
Yes.
All right. There's just a couple of news stories and some graphic. Nelson Wolff needs to retire thing day. This is the actual resolution that was voted on and passed today. 9 votes, 9-1, 9 in favor, 1 abstained, and 1 was absent. Councilmember Clayton Perry abstained from the vote today on this resolution. I'm going to read some key parts to it so you can honestly hear what's going on. Manny Pelaez was absent, but 9 council members voted in favor of this. It's been worked on, they said, by this massive community input process, and they crafted this resolution to declare racism a public health crisis in San Antonio. So do you think, continue to comment, do you think San Antonio is a racist city? I'm going to read a couple of key parts for you here because you can't really see it on that. So, whereas the city of San Antonio has made a commitment to advancing racial equity in government with the formation of the Office of Equity in 2017, which has since developed equity indicators, budget equity tools, and city equity-wide committees. So years ago, in 2017, the city decided that they were going to take their funds, their dollars, and spend them on areas they deemed underprivileged and underserved. Now, great in concept, right? Great in concept. You always want to help those who need the little extra hand in their neighborhood who haven't seen a street or sidewalk in a while. But what they did was, so take a pool, for instance, we'll just use streets and sidewalks. This is how it works at City Hall. Every council district gets, $5-7 million on the average to spend on their streets and sidewalks. And the council member gets to choose who or what is spent on, the neighborhoods, the streets themselves. Now, all these districts pay taxes. Each district has a representative, 10 of them in total, and each one gets to allocate their resources and spending. The Office of Equity comes in and says, well, now, you know what? Hold on a second here. We need to take a chunk of that money because over here in District 2, they haven't gotten their fair share. So now we're going to, or District 3 or 5 or 4, and we're going to put more resources into there. And on the whole, you think about it, and you're like, well, you know what? That makes sense. We got to help those who haven't seen their street repaired in 40 plus years. I get it. I understand that. But we are all taxpayers, right? So other districts tend to get a little bit upset about that because they're like, hold on a second, hold on. We all have a piece of this. There's 10 districts and we all have neighborhoods struggling. I don't care what council district you're in. There is not enough money to support the needs of each and every council district around San Antonio. So when I represented District 6, I knew I had communities in the west side of San Antonio that hadn't seen a street fixed in 40 years. But District 6 got $0 extra because it went to other areas when the city machine determined that was a more worthy opportunity. So I had to go back to residents in District 6, tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. I had to go back to them and tell them we got zero because we just weren't worthy or bad enough to rate on their scale. There are neighborhoods in the west side of San Antonio, District 6, that have not seen repairs or improvements in forever. But equity is a flawed process, right? The analytics and matrix built around this perception of racism now and who had the haves and have-nots are allocating these dollars in particular ways. Now, back in the day, 10 years ago, it used to be that every district got their fair share. If there's $100 million, each got $10 million. That's no longer how it works. District 9 would get $1 million or $2 million because they've got a really good community. District 6, well, they got a lot of new homes out there. There's a lot of growth, so we'll give them $4 million. District 2, you get $15 million. So in essence, what's happening is City Hall begins to play God with how they move these cash and dollars around. Every area of San Antonio has struggle. Every area. I've walked nearly every council district in this community, almost every neighborhood, and I can tell you from my political history, every district has problems. So to sit there and say, well, we got to allocate, we're going to ignore it here while we go over here, that's what starts to tick people off. We all want to help each other, but in a period like this, in a tough pandemic where we're looking at each other like, man, the funds are limited, their answer is to defund the police and find other ways to threaten or jeopardize the entire whole as a community to help the small. So what this really comes down to is, and it's almost something from the old days at Star Trek. This is a Star Trek. I don't know if anybody watches Star Trek. I know my brother does. He's a fanatic about it. But look, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. That's like a massive slogan in Star Trek. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I think it's like Star Trek 3 when Spock dies. Spock says, hey, man. Yeah, no, Spock died. He died and he says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. So, break. Who? What's up?
10-second break.
We're going to go on a 10-second. Yeah, we're back. Hey, man, power, battery back. Dude, you cut me off during my Spock quote, bro.
That's true.
So this is the conversation, right? How do we allocate the dollars? Who gets and who doesn't? And now they're taking this racism as a tool to determine that you, the citizen, are in fact either overtly or implicitly racist. And in that nature, you need to be fixed. And you need to have shame for the history that you bear responsibility for. That is 100% a clear answer to what the city council voted on today. So they declared today racism is a public health issue. Now, racism exists. Let me read you another line of this out of here. So, whereas San Antonio community has experienced a history of structural, institutional, interpersonal, and individual racist practices and laws, including Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, which provided preferential opportunity to some and barriers to Black Americans, African Americans, and other people of color. And these racist practices and laws resulted in unequal educational attainment, health outcomes, housing status, economic security, and wealth building for Black African Americans, as well as Latinx. By the way, Latinx is this new term for, I couldn't even define. Latinx is the new hip term for being a Latino, right? Check this out. Whereas federal redlining policies designed into San Antonio and other cities across the United States and sanctioned by the federal and local government deemed Mexican and Black African American communities in San Antonio unfit for investment based on race characterizations. This gets better. Here, listen to this. This is a part of this resolution today. I don't want to read it all because I don't want to put you to sleep, but you got to hear this one. Whereas Texas enshrined, follow me here. Give me a minute. Are we listening? A.R. Cifuentes, Sean Johnson's in. Mark Burge just joined, old friend of mine. Elias Segura. Here we go. Listen to this. Whereas voted on and approved by the San Antonio City Council today, you'll see it in the news, and it's a news article, but it's not the nuts and bolts of this or what you need to be afraid of. Texas enshrined white supremacy in its 1836 Constitution when Anglo slaveholders seceded from Mexico and the people of Mexican descent experienced mob violence, lynching, whippings, being burned alive, and being shot at close range well into the 20th century. In the 1850s, several counties in Texas expelled Mexicans. In 1854, right? By the way, I just want to remind you, it's 2020. Nobody is alive from 1854. I'm pretty certain. 1854, the city of Austin ordered every Mexican to leave unless vouched for by Anglos. Anglos, white people. You got a lot of answering to do in this resolution. I'm telling you right now. On January 28th, 1918, a group of Anglo cattlemen, here we go again, the white man identified as a perpetrator and a culprit by law. This is passed by your San Antonio City Council. And no further than 5 times already have we identified Anglos as a problem. This is in itself a racist document. On January 28th, 1918, a group of Anglo cattlemen, Texas Rangers, and United States Army cavalry soldiers descended on a village in West Texas as families slept. They seized 15 men and boys, the youngest of whom was 16, marched them to a bluff overlooking the river, and fatally shot them at close range and burned the village. So, that is, man, look, I don't even know what to say. That you basically swiped. So, when you build a resolution like this, resolutions for the most part are non-binding activities. There's no law, fine, or fee associated with them. And they're usually passed to make the city council feel good about themselves. So I'm going to pass this resolution, racism sucks, right? We get that. Okay. And for the most part, like a resolution on climate change or a resolution on housing, whatever. Resolutions have no teeth. But what they do have is a tone that's set for the future. Because future laws will be formed to support and stop these issues identified in the resolution. So just because you pass a resolution doesn't mean at that point that something's happened. But something in the future will occur. Let me read that one more time. January 20th, 1918, a group of this is in a law, an ordinance, a resolution passed by City Council today. A group of Anglo cattlemen, Texas Rangers, United States Cavalry, descended on a village in West Texas. In 1918, seized 15 men and boys and shot them alive. Austin, Texas, Mexicans were forced to leave in 1854.
And they provoked all this.
And all this is due to the Anglo. Now, I don't know how you can write a resolution decrying racism when littered through the resolution is an attack on Anglos that were alive 125 years ago. If you try to imply, passed today 9-0, 1 abstention, if you try to imply that we all own a piece of this, you are dead wrong. I am an Anglo as much as I am a Latino. And then you may not want to hear that, City Hall. You may not want to hear that, activist. But I am also a minority. My mother's an Arrocha. My grandfather is a Canary Islander descended. My family is Latino. It is what it is. My mother's Spanish speaker. My grandmother, my grandfather, his father. And yes, I'm also an Anglo. As an Anglo, this is bullshit. And it is because you sit there and say, and I'm sorry, I have a right to say it now too. You know why I have a right to say it? Because I am also a minority. And that's the beauty of San Antonio, my friend. My former colleagues at City Hall, that's the beauty of San Antonio. Nobody falls into this outlined amalgam that everybody, I'm sorry, it's a melting pot, to use an coined term years ago, but we all are a little of something. Nobody is a perfectly bred Native American except for going all the way back, right, to the Native American themselves, right? So you can call yourself an American, but that's of the country we've built right? 1776, Sons of Liberty, all of that, that country that was built over years. Yeah, we've got problems. Yeah, we've grown. Yeah, there's been difficulty. Yes, there's racism in our community. But as an Anglo, I sure as hell don't like being singled out. And then, mentioned by council members today, that I own a piece of this. The mayor himself. I think we have do we have his comment up there? I think we have it on.
What's the name?
Let's see here. Hold on. Is there something listed? Resolution, and then resolution 1 and 2?
Okay. Resolution 1, okay. There you go.
Put it out there. What do you got? Let's see if you found it.
Right here. Boom.
Okay, man, dude, look at Salo. Man, Salo and I are on a roll, man.
Today's good. So you're racist against yourself. Because you're
I'm basically a
Dang.
racist against myself. How do I sleep at night?
Seriously.
Being Gregorio Bracas. Oh my God.
Oh my god. You need to pay yourself.
You're killing me. This is the mayor, like many other cities in America. The remnants of San Antonio's redlining policies have contributed to worse health outcomes for our communities of color. Look no further than the disproportionate impact COVID-19 has had on our brown and black residents. Today, Council adopted a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis. I was proud to vote yes. We must continue our work to erase the correlation between skin color, well-being, and life expectancy. My friends, followers, people who despise me, whatever, right? I don't care who you are. You're listening, you're watching. You may see this in the future. Someone may talk about it. San Antonio is not racist. It's not embedded in our soul. It's not who we are. Was it actions or activities that happened 125 years ago? Yes. Do you need to memorialize and really identify Anglos as the problem? When you use terms that are inherently you can't fight racism with other terms of racism, and then therefore outline in your resolution today, right, how racist we are because of the sins of our forefathers 125 years ago. So to the city council members who think I or anybody else own a piece of this because we're Anglo, yeah, man, you don't deserve to be elected. You don't. You should not have the job. Anglos are not even the majority of the city any longer. The majority is Hispanic, right? With Latinos the majority in San Antonio, not the Anglo. Now, you can say, well, Greg, but the Anglo has all the power. Well, you know what? A lot goes into that. But not anything I'm responsible for. I'm not a Texas Ranger from 1854. The hell's wrong with you, City Hall? You can't do that. This resolution, there's a goal. Look, we got to be honest about this. If we could stamp out racism, I don't know anybody who wouldn't want that. I don't know anybody. I don't know a soul who wouldn't say, man, I wish I could get rid of every racist, because it's wrong and it's horrible and it's hurtful and it destroys families. And racism is not, by the way, something you're born with. Okay, you're not just born a racist. Yes, people and families, you're raised, you learn in your community, things are grown up, and sometimes a small percentage of us, right, have those tendencies, and that's who they are, and they grow up in that. It's a learned trait, racism. Can we change it? Of course we can. Can we get better at it? Can we eliminate every one of them? I don't know, man. It's not for me to sit here and say, man, I got to stamp out racism in San Antonio. How arrogant am I to think I could change every man and woman's heart in this city? That's the stupidity of City Hall right now. So you're going to pass all these laws, and you start with this resolution, which becomes ordinances and laws in the future. And you think, we got to stamp out racism. I'm here to tell you, fools, you can't eliminate racism in San Antonio. You just can't. You can't legislate your way out of it. Just like you like to say, you can't arrest your way out of crime. That's a favorite saying of City Hall and the liberal, progressive, anti-police activists. We can't arrest ourselves out of crime. You can't law yourself out of racism. You can't. You can't eliminate it just because you pass the law that creates division. You can't. And talking about garbage that happened 150 years ago, and it's horrible stuff. Right? It's horrible. I don't disagree with that at all. But it's 150 years ago. And who in the hell sat there and thought, man, I got to include this stuff from 1800s, man. We got to get this in here because if we don't talk about what the white man did, come on. If you want to pass a resolution, you want to do things that don't divide, then you should sit there and say, hey, look, what are the things we can do? Can we come up with better jobs for people? Can we go after an economic development program that brings jobs to San Antonio, that creates and lessens that wage inequality gap? Of course we can. Can we help people who want to be employed, who want to work hard? Can we help them get better and make more money? Can we help people who want to learn and do better? Be mindful of what I'm saying, how I'm saying that. Listen to my words exactly. Can we produce economic opportunity for those who want to do better? Not everybody is going to benefit, because there's this little problem in government that gets ignored all the time at City Hall. The little problem that gets ignored is personal accountability. Oh, man, well, did I just say that out loud, Salo? Personal accountability. I cannot force you into success. I cannot hand you a weekly stipend and beg you to go do things in the effort and praise that, God, I hope this person goes to class. I pray I will. I'm going to pay him every week. I got to force him in. Not everybody is going to be a homeowner. Not everybody's going to have a great credit score. Not everybody's going to make $25 an hour. Right? Not everybody's going to retire at 62 years old. Because as much as government wants to intervene, as much as they want to intervene, personal accountability, responsibility, and attitude of success is a game-changing piece of that puzzle. So we can do as elected officials, and that's what this is, right? They think they can stamp out racial inequity. Get the hell out of here. Because at the end of the day, there's personal choice, right? Whether you believe it by faith, whether you believe it by law, whatever your belief system is. Personal choice is driving all of this. And you can't stamp out people's moral value. You cannot, City Hall, regulate people's moral values or what they think when they see somebody across the street. I know my city. I grew up here. I spent my entire life here, which is more than I can say for most members of the San Antonio City Council. But what I can tell you is, this is not San Antonio, this resolution. We have to be right about it. Now, oh, Brockhouse, you're a racist, man. Come on, listen to me on this. Absolutely, we have to do things about police. We have to help. We have to train. We have to get better. There has to be accountability. We're open for those subjects and opportunities. We've got to have a talk about them. Got to. We've got to figure out, for Black Americans, African Americans, what can we do to help that cause? Whether it's My Brother's Keeper, whether it's opportunities, whether it's putting investment in there. By the way, the same people who are complaining about the racism and the systemic problems at City Hall, they've been in charge for the last 8 years. What the hell, man? You've had 8 years to fix this. It took George Floyd to make you do something? Ron Nirenberg, Rebecca, Shirley, you've been in charge for 8+ years. And just now it took George Floyd to get you to care to come on. So how do we worry about that? How do we worry about the Latino that hasn't seen on the south side their street or sidewalk fixed in 50 years? How do we fix that, Ray Saldana, former council member, 8 years in District 4? How do we fix that? You didn't for 8 years. Right? So, you want to fix it now, but you've been in charge, but now all of a sudden you got the answers? No, it doesn't work that way. Because the story you're telling of San Antonio isn't who we actually are. That's the problem you're suffering with. You're trying to take what you believe it is, to convert it into something you want it to be, and it's just not going to happen. So you try to legislate and pass laws to make it happen. And that is the cultural reckoning and battle this city is facing. So I'll wrap up with this on the resolution. Tough conversation. But you got to understand where people are coming from this. It's not racist to think this is a waste of political time. Because your actions, while you've been in charge, don't indicate that you even think this. But it does now because it's the moment, right? It's the issue of the day. and it's across an 80 plus city. So now you make the choice you want to do this. That's what it is. It's political opportunism and pandering at this moment. In reality, what Black Lives Matter, what these organizations, right? What the Native American, what they want, they don't want this. I mean, they may run around right now and say, hey man, this is great. This is it. This isn't what they want. And I'll speak as the minority side of me now. The Anglo side of me thinks this is crap because I shouldn't be blamed for stuff that happened 150 years ago. That's utterly ridiculous. I own none of it. The Latino side of me is we've got to do better in action, right? Not just words. Resolutions are words, but what those actions look like need to be fair across all races. It needs to be fair across every council district. You can't identify and tear apart. You can't use racism to cure racism. Right? That's what's happening here. So it's a very fine line. And people say, man, you're a racist, Brockhouse. You don't like... One of the funniest things, or most ridiculous things I heard while I was elected on the city council was that I was a racist and hated Hispanics. Desperation. I am a Hispanic myself. What a self-loathing life I must lead that I hate Mexico. Come on, really? Because I disagreed with you made me a racist? Doesn't work that way in San Antonio. It doesn't work that way in the world. But it works that way in the political argument today. So no, yes, let me be clear. We have to take care of issues in our city, right? Neighborhoods that have been neglected. The wage gap issues, right? The educational transportation issues. Those are all real things that cities have to face with real policies and initiatives that are fair across the entire board. You can't hurt one group to help another, but that's what this does. So now the minority is the Anglo, and the majority is using the sins of forefathers to try to hold. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't clearly identified 1918, 1854. It's clearly documented that it's the Anglo's fault. And I, for one, do not agree. I would not have voted for this. I don't. And Clinton Perry today abstained, but I wouldn't have voted for this either because it's not representative of who we are today. As a leader in any organization, what you can deal with is what's happening to you, what you have on your playing field right now. Leadership is taking the moment, looking at it, and recognizing, right? I can, as a leader, worry about whether I'm managing Best Buy, I'm a leader in a church, I'm a leader on television, I'm a leader at wherever, right? A sports team, doesn't make a difference. I can't make my decisions based on sales, activities, products that were available 50 years ago. I can only make my decisions on what I look like now, my financial position, the opportunities I have, the employees and people that are with me, plus where I want to go in the next 25 years, next 5, 10, 15 years. Those are the decisions I'm trying to make. How do I build going forward? I don't need to build based on the garbage from 100 years ago because that wasn't who I am now. That's not who I am. It's not that. So what this loses sight of, the resolution, I'll close with this. What it loses sight of is how good of a city we are now. Nowhere is that mentioned. Somebody has to stand up and say, this is a great city. The council said it 2 years ago, but now they don't care. It's a broke, racist system. Systemically challenged, racist community. That's what this says. We are a phenomenal city with real problems that can be worked on now, but not by marginalizing, dividing, and attempting to assign blame. They should have called this the blame resolution. I blame you. We can do better than this. That is not to demean the argument that people are marginalized. That's not to say that at all. But platitudes like this are a joke. This doesn't fix anything. Last week, oh man, we got some comments here. Run as Gregorio. Look at Leon Perkins. Really, Leon? God, that's a good one. I like that. She said run as Gregorio. Can't get certain jobs if you don't speak Spanish. That's true. Seriously, Leon Perkins is on it. I like it. Gregorio Bracasa. Who said that? Sally Resendez. That's classic. All right. We had a Back the Blue rally the other night. Let's see. How are we doing? How are we doing?
Good.
All right, we're almost, okay, we got a little bit of time left. It's a Back the Blue rally. So I want to get on this real quick and talk about Back the Blue. We got some things up for Blue 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you put that up?
Ooh.
Let's see if Salo's on it. You got some graphics labeled Blue 1, 2, 3, 4? There's a Back the Blue rally a couple of days ago at La Hacienda de los Barrios. The Los Barrios family hosted. It was just a wonderful event where we just honored first responders, police officers. Here's some images. Unite San Antonio. We were on the show with them last week. Dave Moore, John Schiller, and Robert Farley. There's Councilman Clayton Perry. Thank you to Frank F.J. San Miguel Photos. But that's Clayton Perry speaking. Here's a group of retired old-timers and active duty police officers. They were out working security. But there are some of the retirees from the San Antonio Police Department. Jim Smith, active officer right there. Is there anything else?
Yeah, the expressive lady.
Oh, look at that. Look at that right there. So that's part of the group. Look at all the masks being worn. I like it. I like it. Now, I want to talk about this for a second. So leave that. Can you put that one to the side for a second? So I can look at the camera here and I can see my glorious little face. So I got to tell you, when you Back the Blue and you have an event, so I think a big question that's come into our city is, are you with the police or are you not with the police? But does it mean you don't care about Black lives? Let's be 100% transparent. I believe you can be in support of helping Black Lives Matter and caring about what that racial inequity, those stripes, the challenges, all the things that have happened in our community over. You can acknowledge that, support it, and pray for Black lives and do things to make sure that Black lives are protected. 100%. And any fool that says otherwise doesn't belong in our city, right? And any fool that says, well, Brockhouse is a racist or that show's racist. No, man. Black lives matter. We have to do things to build it. But also, when you're in a protest, right? You're in a movement and you're arguing, you're fighting for your city, whatever side you're on, you have to respect the fact that the other side gets to disagree with you. Right? Because if you want to exercise your political right, you also have to let the other side exercise theirs. So I go to the Blue Lives Matter rally event at La Hacienda, and it was fantastic. I got to MC it. It was an honor. It was great. Black Lives Matter showed up, and they started protesting right off the grounds. And this I have a problem with, and I want to call this out. So both sides, the event went great. 250 plus people, speakers. We talked about just loving on, respecting, and praying for our first responders and our police officers because they have a tough job. There have never been a more difficult time for them. People are trying to take away their pay, their benefits. They're trying to defund the police. This is happening all over the nation, and they're under scrutiny. They have the toughest job in any city government. It's difficult. So they're really under the watch, and it's tough to be a police officer. And everybody knows where I stand with police officers. Absolutely love them. The family, I just respect what these men and women do. Not all of them. They're not 100% fantastic. We get it. Every job has their issue, their employees that are problems. But on the whole, San Antonio Police Department is superior, expertly trained, and they're just moms and dads, brothers and sisters, grandfathers out trying to keep the peace. Are there some that are out trying to do harm? I don't know. Maybe so, and we need to find those people and get rid of them. Nobody wants to get rid of a bad cop more than a good cop. So I love our men and women in police uniform. We have the event, we start recognizing, we thanking, and Black Lives Matter shows up. So this is something I wanted to just touch on for a few minutes. Both sides need because that night I was working both sides of the argument. I went and talked to the BLM folks, the defund police folks, because I knew several of them. Farrell Clark was there, Jordan Parks, real good people. And yeah, they don't believe what I believe. And they're on the other side. But I was able to talk to them and have a good time with them and say, hey man, we're thinking about you. Be safe. Watch out in the street. Don't hurt yourself. Be respectful. We'll be respectful. But then the pro-police side started arguing. They jawing at each other. And this happens, right? So you see this person right here. So when they showed up, this really pisses me off. Can you enlarge the photo a little bit? I think there's a photo that has the whole shot. So she shows up with the defund SAPD sign, and then she's flipping people off. Now, mind you, this person was doing this before anybody started engaging her. I was there. So nobody had engaged her as the opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement. There was the one that had the sign that said, maybe pull that one up. So she's throwing the finger right there, right? She's throwing the finger from the start, like walked on the scene, throwing the finger. Right? This is what we're saying. And then it says, who do you serve? 1312. 1312. Okay, I just want people to see that. I don't know if you can shrink that back over. So 1312 means all cops, letter C. A is 1 for first letter of the alphabet. Cops is 3 for third letter of the alphabet. 1 is A again. All cops are B, the second letter of the alphabet, bastards. 1, 3, 1, 2. A, C, A, B. All cops are bastards. That's what these fools, this person in particular, showed up to protest. Now, each side has crazy people. Don't get me wrong. Somebody from the pro-police side went over and grabbed a sign, tore it up. It was ridiculous. Like, it got a little bit out of control. Not so much, though, because it wasn't... Myself and others were trying to make sure people remained respectful in the conversation. But when you show up with a sign that says all cops are bastards, you don't deserve the platform. Because I'm here to tell you right now, all cops are not bastards. That's like saying, this person's a bastard. All of y'all are. All these people. This woman, the guy on the sign, this guy over here on the sign, all of y'all bastards. Really? Nobody thinks that. But that's what we're dealing with, right? That's what we're dealing with. No.
If somebody would have beat her up right there, who would she call?
She'd have to call the cops. Salo said if someone were to attack them, who do they call? So somebody from the pro-police side took a sign, tore it up. And then they're like, we got to call the cops. This was assault. I'm like... I was like, hold on.
I gotta call the cops.
I was like, I got a question.
I hate water, but I'm thirsty.
I got a question for you. You hate the cops and they're all bastards, but you're going to call them right now because you got assaulted? Somebody took your sign that said all cops are bastards?
Wow.
Wow. Wow. That is the movement. You cannot think otherwise. Now, Farrell Clark was there and Jordan Parks were there and they were conducting themselves. Look, everybody has a right to protest. And I said that to those people right here as they're operating and doing their thing. And you have a right to protest and stand there. 100%. Stand there, voice it, say what you think. Right? You have that right. It's enshrined in our Constitution, the Bill of Rights. It's who America is. So you can trash America while using the rights that America has guaranteed you. I love it. I love it, man. And you want to burn a flag and stamp on it, kneel for it? By golly, that's the rights this country has given you. Do I not like it? Absolutely. I can't stand it. I don't like seeing it, and I don't have to follow it. But it is your right to do exactly what's up there. But it's my right. Man, you know what? I'm not a big advocate for getting involved. And I was telling people that night, stop engaging them, let them go. And they're like, well, hold on, Greg. If they can protest, we can protest too. I'm like, yeah, you can, but should you? So my words of wisdom tonight, Brockhouse's word of wisdom, may only be worth a penny. I don't know if even worth anything at all. My word of wisdom is, when you encounter protesters, and in a situation like this, all cops are bastards is absolutely insulting. It's disgusting, and it's meant to incite, riot, attack. What they want is for you to attack them to make a story. They want to show you, the pro-police supporter, to be unhinged, difficult, psychotic, angry, white. They want to categorize you through their actions. So when you see a sign that says all cops are bastards, it's infuriating. But you know how you win that conversation? And this is to the pro-police side first. You know how you win that conversation? Let them do their thing. Let them do it. What they want is the story. They want the engagement. They want the media to see it. They want to be humiliated. They want the fight. Because the fight continues to perpetuate their anger and proves their point to them that you're a racist. So your anger is only utilized, your opposition to this is only utilized to further their cause. That's what they want. So pro-police people, you win it at the ballot box. You win it by supporting the men and women, picking up their tab at Starbucks, thanking them when you see them, introducing your children to them so children get a better relationship with police officers, showing up at a substation to say hello, walking your kid over to visit a police officer in their uniform. You build the rapport and the thanks by the things that are outside of the riot, the protest, and the debate. No good comes of the back and forth when you engage this kind of ludicrous behavior. Jordan and Farrow and the other people that aren't in this picture, 100% professional. They cared, they showed up, they disagree, we talked, that was it. It was that easy. It was good.
Trish DeBerry, thanks you.
Trish DeBerry, thanks for emceeing the Black to Blue rally. Yeah, Trish DeBerry, exactly. I work on television news, I covered the, yes. Trish makes a great point right there. So Trish DeBerry is running for County Commissioner in Precinct 3. Make sure you're voting. She's running here in the fall, November, County Commissioner Precinct 3. Trish is right. She actually covered a police officer, Patricia Calderon, who died and drowned in a pursuit decades ago. I don't want to out Trish on how many years ago it was, but Trish has a love for our police officers, and she was there that night at the rally. And you don't win the debate at that moment when that's all there. When a sign says all cops are bastards, 1312, you should know. So pro-police followers, don't engage the anger at the moment it's coming at you. Engage it with your vote, engage it with your support, engage it when you're out in the community, engage it with your family and friends, get registered, make it happen. When you play into the protest and you come and you push back, which people want to, man. I was talking to people that night, they're like, Brockhouse, we got to push back. We got to tell these people no. They can't stand, they can't do it. And I told them all, each of them, I told them, it is their right to stand there and say exactly what they're saying. So you can't stop their right to do it on public property, to say what they believe to be the truth. And I told the protesters that night. They can do it. Let them do what they need to do.
That's the beauty of America.
That's the beauty of America. So the tough part of America is I have to sit here and listen to somebody advocating that which I would, at the top of my lungs, advocate against. And I have to sit there and be like, my God, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm going to say what I think, but you have every right to say what you think. And the great reckoning comes at the ballot box. What's happened too long is that the silent majority is not voting, and the vocal minority's got the message. So, to the pro-police person, be mindful not to demean the actions that they're allowed to perform. You could demean the message all you want in your own personal way. You got to do what you got to do. But know that that feeds that narrative. And you lose when you give them exactly what they want, which is you acting like that which they already deem you to be. Racist, angry police supporter, Anglo, you name it. You go right down the line. Don't do it. Let them protest and respect that right that's enshrined in the very Constitution we all love and respect. So they can hate the Constitution and still use it. It is backwards as it gets, man. But that's the beauty of America. That which they often hate. They embrace the principles of our Constitution while damning it out of the other side of their face. But that's America. So let them do that, my friends. Now, to the protester side, right? The Black Lives Matter and those groups that show up with the all cops are bastards sign. You got to get a clue. Don't show up inciting the fight and the riot. You have a movement that makes sense. Black Lives Matter. That's a fair movement. And I've said this on my show, and I'll continue to say it in public or wherever. I am pro-police, and I believe Black Lives Matter. Period. Now, how we go about supporting African Americans in our community, that is open for debate. That we have to figure out. But I can be both. But when you show up on site with the sign, you're throwing the finger. That woman showed up. The first thing she was doing was throwing the finger. Before anybody engaged her, she was throwing the finger. The man with the sign that said, all cops are bastards. No, they aren't. So you show up. Your message, so to the protester, your message is hijacked by these people that want to live in the hate, not the solution. They're not living in the solution. They're living in the hate. So the hate is every cop is a bastard. When we all know that's absolutely not true. We know that. The core of who we are. Tyler knows it. Sal, I know it. My priest knows it. My father knows it. The men and women on the east side, south side, the police officers themselves, their parents, their families, their wives, their children. All cops are not bastards. If you want to bring the argument, bring the anger. We understand that because there's years of it. And if any group has a right to sit back, there's a couple of groups, in my opinion, have a right to sit back and say, history has been horrible and the historical problems of this country, the challenges we've seen, it's Black America. 100%. And before that's the Native American. So when I sit back and I hear an African American talking about their troubles, their problems, what they experience, whether they're a young man, challenges, I listen. I have to. Because that is rooted in some serious problems, 150 years ago. And does it affect people now? No. But should I listen to it? Yes. Those two groups, man, you got to think about that. And the Native American gets left out of all of the conversation. They never get the discussion. You can go all the way back to how we put people on reservations. How the Native American has suffered there. So a lot of groups don't get it, right? They don't get the same level of opportunity to be angry and protest. But protester, show up with an argument. Show up with, push your agenda and your message. Not lies. All cops are not bastards. That's bullshit. You can't say that. They're men, they're women, they're fathers, they're children. Come on. Show up with the better fight. And then let's have the debate. But what you do is you take away. So that girl and that guy holding that sign detract from Jordan Parks and Pharaoh Clark, who were on my show. We had a great discussion. I listened to them. I learned a little. They learned a little. We broke some bread afterwards. They mean business and they want to do better. Clouded by people who just like to live in the anger. Who, by the way, she's sitting there in Black Lives Matter and defund SAPD, and they've never lived that struggle. What freaks me out is the people walking around adopting the struggle and the pain. I'm like, oh my God, hold on a second here. I'll sit there and listen to Jordan Parks, and I'll try to change for her or figure her out. If she'll figure me out, I'll listen to Pharaoh Clark. Yeah, I don't believe what he believes, but we can talk about it. Let's see if we can find some common ground. But the white woman who's screaming all cops are bastards, who's never lived a day of struggle in her life, there's the door. Get going. No one needs to listen to you. I'll listen to the person who knows the struggle all day long. And we should do that. We should pay attention to the person who has lived the struggle, right? I had Christopher Herring on here, Antonio Lee. They both sat here, and Christopher Herring told me about his concerns and worries for his son as a black young man in San Antonio. I have to listen to that. I have to. That's what Chris lives in. Do I agree with how we got to how Chris feels like that? Man, we got to talk about that. Do I agree on what the city wants to do to fix that problem? No. Do I agree there's a problem? Yes. Do I agree Chris worries about his son because of the color of his skin? It was written all over his face. He was crying about it. The tears were in his face that he worries about his son and what life he's going to have after he's gone. We got to work on that. But the white person who's throwing the finger, or the Hispanic that's throwing the finger saying Black Lives Matter and adopting the movement, there's more white people in Portland right now pissed off and creating anarchy than there are black people. The message is gone. So when you see this at the Blue Lives Matter rally at San Antonio, there's a rally going on tonight, right now, Black Lives Matter rally at Public Safety Headquarters. But when you see that, I'm telling you, people are wondering, like, why am I listening to you? So your message, protester, matters. Don't show up with lies. Don't show up inciting the fight. And if you want to be respected at your protest, respect those that you go to protest at as well. Respect the fact that people there believe in our San Antonio Police Department and they want to help and celebrate the men and women of the department. That's it. Respect that. Stand there and say what you want to say. But don't lie. Don't show up with all cops are bastards. You're looking for the fight instead of looking for the answer. And then you destroy the other side who's also with you, right? Jordan and Pharaoh and all them. It's not right. There will never be any solution to that answer if you show up there just trying to pick the fight, praying that they attack you. Give me a break. It's right. It's not right. It's wrong. The Back to Blue rally was huge. I think we need to do more of those. I'm a big-time police officer supporter. I think we need to do more of them, Salo. And I think I need to put on a Blue Lives Matter rally.
We have to.
Off the charts. I'm going to find a place. I'm going to put one together, advertise it, and it's going to be huge. I think I want to. And if Black Lives Matter wants to show up, by all means, show up. If you want to do it together, show up. If you want to be a part of it, show up. If you want to walk, I challenge any member of the Black Lives Matter movement right now. You want to show up with me and walk across this city? I'll carry the police flag. You carry the BLM flag. Let's show up. Let's do it. We can do it together. So get away from your rhetoric and let's get to the answers. Because the answer isn't all cops are bastards. And for the police side, it's not that these people are uneducated fools who are just angry at the world. I saw that on Tuesday night. It was unfortunate, but overall it was a great event. And it was really perfect in the sense that it was overwhelming. People showed up and they just cared. That was it. And give each other the space to utilize the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Give each other the space to use that tool for what it was intended. You have a right to protest. Don't act like you don't. You have a right to disagree. Don't take that away from those who disagree with you. That's the end game. So, I think we're about near the end of that, Salo.
Yep.
I think we're about near the end of the whole thing. Should we do a few memes just to wrap it up?
You have some here.
I have some memes. There are some memes. Thank you for following and checking it out. It was only a couple issues tonight, but I'm just getting a little fed up. I'm not going to lie to you. Getting a little fed up with the hijacking of issues and ideas, the anger that is perpetrated on people, the racism fingers that are pointing, the lack of listening from City Hall, the lack of City Hall not representing the will of the community. It's all over the place. And we got to get better at it. Next week, we'll try to find some guests to come in and we'll have some of these conversations. Everybody's welcome on the show. But we need to have honest conversations. And I'm telling you right now, to me, my opinion, the city's going off the deep end. The reckoning is going to be a vote in May of 2021. Things like today past the City Hall really don't represent how people as a whole, a majority, feel about this city. But if you just let the minority have the voice, you will feel like it's the majority when you're in that bubble. They think they're the majority. Here to tell you they're not. So how do we change that? Active engagement, information, and let's make it happen. Otherwise, you get stuff like this, right? And we got to be careful of that. Can't use racism to defeat racism. So let's look at some of these memes before we wrap it up. What we got? Me, I don't have a mask. Grandma, hold my tea. Notice it's not hold my beer.
Gotta respect Grandma.
By the way, this is vandalism. Notice how she's fixing up her Black Lives Matter movement sign. That's not vandalism. That's absolutely true, by the way. Protesters with no masks is public engagement. People at La Hacienda or the Well Bar with no masks is law breaking. So you can protest by the thousands and not wear masks, but if you show up to Chipotle and there's 25 people in there not wearing masks, you're a lawbreaker. And the city, by the way, is out to fine. The special hit groups are out there looking for people violating the mask ordinance. I don't know where they were when all these protests were going on, but now they're out trying to find people and fine them. So vandalism, not vandalism. What else you got? Yes! That's absolutely true, Oprah. After today, everyone's a racist. This is unbelievable. That's the San Antonio City Council right there. Gotta love it, gotta love it. What's next? Yes, how to spread COVID. We've already talked about this. Man, none of those people have masks on. That is exercising your First Amendment rights. That's taking care of your voice, protesting. And then if you do that at The Well, which is a restaurant bar here in San Antonio that the mayor's all pissed off about, people without masks on, they fined them. It's in the news, a place called The Well. The mayor said he was angry at the people at The Well, the ownership. Well, he didn't seem to be too angry when the exact same amount of people were protesting with no masks on. But hey, man, that's the media for you, complicit as well as the leadership. They only deem not illegal what helps or supports their political cause. I love this one. Joe Biden, look at him. Joe Biden is a racist. Kamala Harris also said he was, you know what Kamala Harris did say? That she believed the sexual harassment accusers against Joe Biden. She said she believed them. I am so not racist that I would like you, a woman of color, to be my VP. Oh my God, yes. That's absolutely true. Joe Biden talking tonight. I love this one right here. I don't know if this is... I tried to do as much fact checking to see if this was true, but I couldn't find anything to disprove it. But it is a meme. MSNBC. That's Hillary Clinton at the top on the road to 270. Hillary Clinton was going to destroy the Donald. And now Joe Biden's destroying the Donald by a strikingly similar margin. If Joe Biden was oh my God. Dude, you snuck that one in on me.
Oh, this one.
Liberal protests in person to oppose having to vote in person. Okay, hey, hold on. Salo, I love you, man. This is why I love you. Salo finds the memes. Sometimes I have to fire him on the memes.
Yeah.
But sometimes he finds these memes that completely encapsulate the issues of the day. Liberals protest in person to avoid having to vote, to oppose having to vote in person. That is absolutely true. The lines are incredibly long to protests in liberal America and progressive America, and I respect that 100%. And yet they don't want to show up in 6-foot distance at a voting booth. I don't know, man. Got to think about that one. They said a mask would be enough to go to the supermarket. They lied. Everyone else had their clothes on.
What about this one?
I love you, bro. What else you got? If you're paddling upstream in a canoe and a wheel falls off, how many pancakes fit in a doghouse? None, because ice cream doesn't have bones. Salo always sneaks a questionable meme in.
That's it.
Is that it? All right. Hey, look. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. Tonight, couple issues really on the topic. We talked about racism as a public health crisis. To be very clear once again, because somebody's going to get their feelings hurt. Racism exists in San Antonio. There are racist people. San Antonio is not racist. It's not this systemic, historical assault on Anglos and the history of us as a city. When 2 years ago, during the 300 celebration of this city, we were screaming how great and culturally diverse San Antonio is. To 18 months later, now we're a systemic rat hole racism-infested city. Not true. This resolution had comments and issues from 1854. 1854. We have no ownership for this. What we own as citizens is what we do going forward. Not this reflection of anger. This is not San Antonio. Maybe it was 1854. I don't know. I wasn't alive. Talk to somebody who was. Tell me if this matches what was happening in 1854. But if not, I don't want to hear it. We don't own it. What we own is how we rebuild now. How we become in the next 10, 15, 25 years. Does that include addressing racist issues in our city? Of course it does. Does it mean we're systemically broken, racist, and the entire system is dead now? No. No. And be weary of and leery of resolutions because they become the policy statement for the future. They're going to have to enact laws, ordinances to pass these items. Be prepared. And then that Blue Lives Matter rally, we wrapped up with that conversation. Give each other the chance to protest. Be good at your protests. Be firm, right? Be aggressive. And in your response to the protest, do the same. But all cops are not bastards. Don't show up flipping the finger to police officers and their families or supporters of police officers. If you disagree and you want to defund them and you want to make sure they have different things in their collective bargaining agreement or you don't want them to have it at all, have the fair argument. Let's go. The great reckoning will come in May when we have the vote. You will lose. This city is pro-police. You are not the majority when you say defund police. You are not the majority. 65% plus support our police officers. That is documented by far. Political polling has indicated in our city multiple times over. 65% plus support our police department. You are the minority if you believe in defunding the police department. If we have to prove it, we'll prove it in the ballot box in May. We're probably going to have to. We'll probably have to stand up for our PD when the time comes. That does not mean just because you support police, you think we need to have bad cops that need to be defended. We all can do better. Training, education, accountability, we're there. We can talk about those things. And let's have those hard conversations. Because at the end of the day, that's what the broadcast is about. It's about talking about the things that are challenging, the uncomfortable, and believing that no matter what happens, the best thing we can do is just be honest, man. Say what you think. And then put a vote down. And the great reckoning is the tally of those votes. We're going to see it in November. We'll see it in May. If you believe this city is racist and it's this systemic rat hole of a city that it's become, hey man, you live in it. What are you doing to fix it? If you don't believe that, which I think is the majority of San Antonio, your chance to vote is coming. Get educated. Listen, learn, and understand, because at the end of the day, we're all going to have a shot to say what we believe in private, one-on-one, in that ballot box. Listen, follow, share it. We appreciate you. And as always, we close this bad boy out with the broadcast is officially out.